Episode 17, the battle for Africa. So we're going to zoom into Africa, back to the Sahara Desert, Morocco, Western Sahara. And we're going to show you the pieces of the puzzle that we've been putting together over the last few episodes. We're going to clean the map. Do you see the dragons? Do you see the dragon? The fish, and Atlantis. Here is the dragon. Here is the fish. And here is Atlantis. We will start with the dragon. We will zoom in to see his face. We'll start off with his red eye, his snout, and his lower jaw. And there's a black strip running across his face, down his neck, and that goes all the way down across his throat. We'll do that soon. But first, all the black to the left is coming out of his mouth. We're going to zoom into the black. There is the black. Look at that. Have fun. Wondering what all that could be. This is toxic venom coming out of the dragon's mouth. As we zoom out, you will start to see it. All that poison coming out of that dragon's mouth. And that black is going downward. And you see it. You see all of it. So that all that toxic poison, black venom, coming out of the dragon's mouth. Now let's zoom into the dragon's beard, coming out of his snout, right here. Look at the beards. It goes this way, and it comes down this way, over here. And then he has beards over here. Look at those beards. And look at these beards that come out of his mouth, off of his chin. Now we will follow the dragon's throat down this way. On the top, we see all the fluffy, feathery stuff. But when we go to the lower part of his throat, we start to see all of the insides of his glands and the toxic venom coming out of it. Where his dragon scales, here's where the dragon scales start, right here. And these dragon scales basically run across the rest of his front of his body, across the entire desert. And right here, the white starts to go down. This is the toxic venom somehow transforms from a white into a black when it comes out of his mouth. But this white goes all the way down. And you can follow the dragon scales all the way down. You can follow the toxic venom all the way down. You can follow the dragon all the way down until you get to this part of the dragon's throat, which has a zigzag in the middle of it. Zig, zag, zig, zag, and then the blood runs out. And here the blood is black, but it was not always black. It used to be green, but that changed. And you can continue following these dragon scales. In case you didn't know, the dragon scales are still there. And all the toxic venom is still there. And it's all running down. All of it is running down right across the desert, all across Africa. By the way, the zigzag in his throat was where he was killed. If you read up on the ancient stories, the dragon's throat was cut by different gods, and you guys got to read up on the different stories. But let's continue down with the dragon scales, all the way down. Eventually, the dragon's throat ends, and his midsection begins, and that would be right here. And then his midsection leads to his two legs. There are his two legs. One leg, two leg. Can't really see the feet too good, but I believe they're like chicken feet from what I gather. And then the tail, you start to see his tail. His tail tapers off this way and that way. And then you see the dragon scales in his tail. And then the tail starts to feather out. You start to see more of a featherish look to it. All this right here, all feathery looking stuff right here. See the feathers? So that's his tail. Those are his legs, his back arches, his midsection, his long throat with the feathery neck, back neck, and the dragon scaly bottom part of his throat, right up to his head, with his red eye, his mouth open, and the toxic venom coming out of his mouth, attacking this fish, which we didn't really establish who the fish was, but we had some theories about it. Out of all the dragons and the monsters and the serpents, this fish is the most interesting thing to me, personally. All right, so real quick, there's his eye, that little black spot right there. That's his pupil. So you follow that eye out. Underneath, you see his mouth, right here. And then across his whole body, you see the scales, the fish scales. They kind of go like almost like little circle types of shapes. And then the back, you see the bottom of his fish tail here. It's kind of hard to see the top of it because the sand kind of flushed over it. All right, but now we're going to start getting into we're going to zoom into the biology of this fish. It gets very interesting. The dragon is spitting the toxic venom onto the fish's fin. All right, this whole thing right here is the fin. The venom is coming down, making it black. Now we're going to zoom in to the top of the fish's back, where you can see all that venom starting to come down and hit the fish in the back, past his fin, all the way down to his back. And what you see in his back as we zoom in, this is called an arterial system. It's an artery, a blood way. And as the blood travels through these main arteries, you see one here, one here, one here. They're everywhere. They come up in this direction. They come up in all different directions. But they branch out into blood vessels. After an artery, the blood breaks off into a blood vessel. And we see the blood vessels here. But then they branch out one more time into a capillary. And now we see the capillaries. Look at them branching out everywhere. But then, after the capillaries, they dump out into the vein. They connect the arteries to the veins. And now we see the veins right there. And then right there. And right there. And right there. We see them everywhere. So this is an entire blood system filled with arteries, blood vessels, capillaries, and veins. What else does it have? Well, right here, it has a lymph node. And you can see right here, all of that going into there. Because the lymph nodes have to filter all that stuff out. And it's not the only lymph node, because if you come over here, there's another lymph node, and you can see the same thing. So this is a very good detailed picture of biology. The biology. That fish takes up almost the entire Sahara Desert. We go to the third dragon. And we call this one Atlantis because potentially this is the island, the hidden city of Atlantis. And it seems like it's possible that a piece of this creature is inside the fish's mouth. So the fish could be attacking this whatever type of creature. It could be a jellyfish, could be we don't know what it is. We have honestly no idea. But as we start to zoom into this creature's eyeball, it gets pretty wild, man, because right there you can definitively see the optic nerve start to come down and come around the circle and out the other side. And then you start to see the rings until you get into the center. And we're going to zoom in. We're going to start to look at all those nerve endings and layers of the eyeball. And it's really wild, man. Check that out. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato talked about Atlantis and rings inside of rings, inside of rings, circles inside of circles, inside of circles, islands inside of islands, inside of islands. And we see that here. Countless of them. 1, 2. I honestly can't count the layers of rings and circles that are inside of this. There are too many. Africa starts to look differently. And it gives us some questions to ponder. Was this the only gigantic fish in the world, or was there millions of gigantic fish out there? And what else do you see on this picture? Are there more dragons? Are there more serpents? Are there more mythological beasts that we do not see yet? I call upon you, the dragon hunters.